Hello and welcome to another coding walkthrough. This time I thought we would have a look at, again, coming back to a program that I hadn't edited the code for a while and just wanting to make a small change. Now, background to this type of video, a warning straight up, this may be rather long. It also might not be edited at all. That's actually quite deliberate. The idea with these videos is to give you an idea of what ordinarily happens. I do know from watching YouTube videos myself that you kind of get, understandably, an edited view of what goes on when you're writing programs or making changes to programs. This video is not like that. I don't have a problem with the other ones. They're actually very good and obviously very time efficient when people have edited them down and you get to see just the things that you need to do here and there, etc. This is kind of the opposite. The idea here is that you just sit back, you imagine you visited me, I've said, oh, I'm ready to go out for lunch, but I've just got this change I want to make while it's in my head. Sit there, do something, read a book. I'm just going to make the changes to my program. And let's say I speak out loud as I do that, and you sit there and you think, oh, okay, this will be interesting. Let's see what this person does. That's kind of what this video is going to be like. We're just going to go straight into looking at a program where there's a change I want to make that I've realized that, oh, this is annoying me, so I just want to make a little change to how the user interface works. And we're going to dive into the code and we're going to have to work out where in the code to make the changes and what to make. Like, I have not pre-prepared this. I do not right now know exactly how the changes are going to occur. I think I generally know, so that's fine. The fact that you won't recognize any of the code is also fine because I'm going to just talk about it as I go into it. Alright, well, let's have a look. What is this program? What's the change we're going to make? So here is the program. It's called folder tree. It's used for comparing files and deleting files when they are found to be the same. There's a particular part of the program here called pruner tree, and we're just going to focus on a very small part down the bottom, which is where I have these pre-deletion check options. These check boxes here, here, and a pull-down box there for a selection. So what's wrong? Well, most of the times when I come in to use the program, and I've done the other settings in here, and I'm about to run it, I go, oh, okay, I do want to make sure that it does all the possible checking it can before it goes deleting files. And that actually means I want to turn on all of these checkboxes. This one, do congruent before each delete. That's sort of checking things. Do stringent congruent, which is about checking that every file is byte for byte exactly the same. It's not just the same file name and date, timestamp and size. And report stringent failures. So if any of those files are found to be not exactly the same, I want to see that in a text file, log file somewhere. And then finally, immediate deletion, because the whole reason for doing all those checks is that we know that if all of those have come okay, then we're quite okay to delete the file because there are two copies. That's the general idea of what goes on here. So what's the problem? Well, I have to do exactly what you saw me do just then. I have to click all three of those checkboxes and then select immediate deletion. What I'd actually prefer to have happen, and we'll come back to that red bit in a second, is that when I get into the program, it's normally set to dry run, which is do nothing at all. It's a very safe default setting to have this in. I'd like it so that when I click on immediate deletion, it goes and turns on those three checkboxes. And as you can see, that one thing I have already programmed into here is that if you do select immediate deletion and you haven't done those checkboxes, I have a red warning showing up saying, oh, this is not a safe way to be doing things. So the way to get it to be safe is in fact to turn on not just that one, but also that one, and then the red symbol goes away. Now that's all very fine, and that seemed a good idea at the time. It's just that in practice, really I'm causing myself to do a lot of clicking. So what do I want to do? I want it to be that when I come in, it's sitting in dry run mode. When I select immediate deletion, I want it to immediately go and turn on those three other checkboxes. Now, obviously sometimes that might not be what I would want, but that's fine. If it turns on all three, I can then turn off the ones that I don't want. So I just think this is an efficiency of use. Actually, it's just about being less annoying, really. I'm going to do this a lot, and that way I can just select immediate deletion and go, yes, I've got all my settings right, I'm ready to go and do the run. Now let's set it for that, and that way it'll just be set to do the safe operation. So really, this is not so much about what the program does. We're not going to change what the program does at the underlying level. This is actually just about the user interface and the settings. So we've got a combo box over here that we'll want to detect when we have selected immediate deletion, and we'll want to have some code that will then go and turn on the settings for those 3 checkboxes. That's the edit we're going to make today. Alright, let's go and actually look at the program code for this. So for the program code, I have my editor, my IDE, if you like, not that it's really one of those, which is called, in this case I'm using the editor called Genie. Doesn't really matter which one you use. Now again, you've not seen this code. The structure of things really is that all the application logic and how it operates is done in all these different files. There's all these .py files where different parts of the program are. But as it happens, all of the graphic user interface code is just in one of these. It's in the one called folder tree, the main program. And so there's then a lot of code in here that defines lots of things. So the first question might be, well, where on earth do we start? How do we know where to start? Well, imagine you haven't looked at this code for a while, like I haven't actually, and I've kind of forgotten how I've named things really. You know, it gets to be a bit vague. Let's run the program again and get a clue, actually. So here's the program running, prune it tree. Alright, so certainly the places where these things are defined, there's going to be bits of text saying what they are. Basically, the text for do congruent before each delete, do stringent congruent, report stringent failures, deletion action mode. So I could choose one of those. Certainly deletion action mode is the one we want to affect, so maybe that's what we'll go look for. So deletion action mode. I'm just going to hold that in my memory for a second. We'll come back to the code here. I'm just going to pop up a search and start typing in, it's on the other screen, deletion action mode. Aha, here we go. Here's one spot. Now I may do the same thing in another part of the program, so we better just check that. Yes, it's also there somewhere else and somewhere else. It's in 3 places. So one of those 3 places is actually the one we want. I'll skip some boring detail. Actually, the section we want is all of the T01. Prunetry was the first tab, if you kind of remember what you saw then, and that's one reason why this is the right section of code. So in fact, this here is the place where that combination box gets defined. So we actually know therefore that its name as an object is this T0 label enum delete mode. That's the name of it. And in fact, if we look, we can use the sort of highlighting here. Actually, that's the label. Sorry, that bit there. No, that's the label for it, which is why it had the text deletion action mode. Here's the combo box for it. T01 CB. That's my naming convention there. Enum delete mode. That's the name of the combo box. It actually gets defined here as being one of these things. It gets located. Packed is the way it gets located on the screen. And we actually have here a binding operation for when you select it. So in fact, it does respond. There is some code that gets run when you select that combo box. That's actually what was triggering the red label that we were seeing there. So straight away, I actually know that the place where the action occurs, as in responding to that combo box, is in a function called this, T01 check riskiness. Now, immediately I can actually see a problem, because you may notice with the highlight there, here's check riskiness. Well, actually we've got another check riskiness just a bit further up here, and that's when we go clicking those other buttons. That's because the check riskiness is about whether to set that red label or not. We actually want to do something slightly different to that. We want to do something to change those checkboxes, and then we'll let it go and check to see whether it should show the red label or not. So actually we're going to have to restructure things a bit, really. We're going to have to create a new function, call it something else, and it can then go and set the 3 checkboxes, and then it can call the check riskiness that it was going to call originally anyway. So already the plan of attack is kind of working out here. Now, here I have to kind of explain a little bit about how the code in this module is structured. The reason that here we can say bind this function, which is that function, to the combo box is that we've already defined this. This has to be higher up in the code. So if you're reading the code from the top down, this will be higher up in the code. So we can go jumping back to find where that is, and that's one way I can do that. In fact, let's do that. So let's get that, put that in the clipboard. Previous, oh okay, that's where it's being bound to the other checkbox. You can kind of see over here, that's a checkbox reference there. There's another one. There's another one. Actually, if I want to find where the function itself is defined, instead of searching for the name, I could search for DEF, because that's how Python code declares a function, and there it is there. Here's the definition of what to do about checking the riskiness, which is about what sets that red label or not. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. We would like to do something else and then call that. So what I'm going to do is copy that block there, which is the definition of this function, come down to after that function and before the next one, and is that right? Oh yes, I see. And put that there. I'll just put a comment there. I haven't put anything in that yet, just to do that. Now we do need to give this a name. So this will be, well, we've got the, see, I've forgotten the name already of the function we were doing. So this is where I'm going to just do something rather silly. I'm going to call it T01 Blobby, which doesn't sound like a good name at all. Put that in the clipboard. But actually I'm now going to be searching for check riskiness. So this is the thing, I'm using the search for, even though I don't really remember what the names are, there's so many names in the program, I don't really care right now, I just want to match them. So if I now go back up to there, I highlighted check riskiness as the function name, do search, it automatically puts that in as the search thing, because that's what was highlighted, and I can jump down and I will eventually get to where that reference was. Now you might recognize here we're at actually the first checkbox, super, the second one, the third one, because there were three of them, and here is the checkbox stringent bind. No, that's another checkbox. That's another checkbox. So I'm looking for this bit of text here to decide which thing I'm seeing. Here we are. Here's the delete mode. So here we're back at the delete mode where we were before. We've got that check riskiness there. So actually now we could change that to the blobby thing, really, because that's what we know. We've called the new function, even though it doesn't do anything yet. So what I'm going to do is paste in that new name. I'm actually going to cut that one out. And now when we click on the combo box, it'll go and run T01 Blobby instead. And I can jump back to where that was, like that. So again, highlight it, do the search, say find it, it went and found it. And what I could do then is basically put in here the call to check riskiness. So I feel like all I've done now is change it so that the combo box calls this function, and this function actually will do nothing. So imagine I put some things that it will do in here, and then it will call the riskiness function that it was going to call before anyway. So I've kind of just put myself into interrupt the flow in that sense. Now in the editor here, Control G will keep doing the same search, which was T01 Blobby at the moment. So I'm just going to go back to that, where that was. Now the reason I've done that is I want to give it a better name than T01 Blobby. That's not really a good name at all. So what do we want to do? So we actually want this to respond to the delete mode. So let's go T01. I'm actually going to make up the new name here. T01 del mode react. Honestly, that's not a great name, but it's at least better than Blobby. I'm going to put that in the clipboard, copy that, cut that into the clipboard so it's not there. I'm going to highlight T01 Blobby, bring up the search replace function in the editor. 201 blobby's in there. Paste in, because I've put that into the clipboard, del mode react. Now, really, what I probably should do first here, if I was being really, I should check there isn't anything already called T01 del mode react, because if I'm changing blobby to that could cause a problem. This is where you'd like the editors to be able to do that kind of thing. Frankly, lots of IDEs do, and would let you know that. Here I'm just relying on the fact that I'm pretty sure I haven't named anything called that. So with that in there, this is one of my habits. I'm actually now going to go back into the editor point there, so I'll go away from the combo box. I'm going to do Control Home to go to the top of the code, which you might think, oh, I've lost my place. But I'm now going to do Find, and that's hidden that. So you can see it's found the def one, so I'm going to do Replace and Find. It'll then go searching for the next instance, which is where we had the combo box selected reference. Replace and Find, no more finds. So that's it, it's replaced in the two places. So now I have the fact that I've got a slightly better name for the function that now is just a redirection thing in that sense. Alright, well now we need to actually make that new function do something. At the moment it literally does nothing except act as if it wasn't there really. So the question becomes, well, how do we do that? Now, there may be a place in here. Certainly, we want it to affect these combo boxes, really. The way that this gets done here is the way this GUI is constructed. Things like a checkbox are actually made out of two elements. There's the checkbox here. So in my naming here, this is basically T01 checkbox for congruent fails stringent, which is about reporting stringent failures. That's the sort of human read of that. Created as a check button, but actually the check button, its value is set to, up here, is set to be a variable called T01 check variable congruent fails stringent, the exact same name other than the bit that's in here. And actually with the highlight in there, you can see that actually that was defined on the line before. Now this is about the GUI libraries and how those work, but actually all we really need to know therefore is that to set the value or to read the value of the checkbox is that variable there, that thing T01 check variable congruent fails stringent. So if I put that into the clipboard, now what's in my search at the moment, because what I want to do now is I want to jump to that new function. That function was T01 del mode react. There it is here down in the bind. Put that in there, search upwards, there is the function there. So I know I'm going to want to do something with that variable. So a good question might be, well, how do we do that? Well, funnily enough, we actually have some clues from the function above here, because in the check riskiness we will need to actually check that value. And so this is more about triggering my memory of how the interfacing works here. So what you can see us doing here is actually to get the values of those checkboxes. Here's a different one, this is not the same one we just looked at. Check variable super.get open bracket bracket. Well, actually the way that you do the setting of one of these is kind of very similar syntax to this. I'm going to copy that out, come down to here, paste that in there. So instead of get, it's actually a set function, and the way that you set it is to set, in terms of switching it on compared to being off, is to set a value of 1. And in fact we'll want to do that for 3 checkboxes, one of which is going to be that one. So in fact, if I do that, like that, alright, that's one of them. Actually we've got the same one there twice, but the other one is here. Actually, is that right? I forget. Actually, I don't think I've got the right ones there. This is why I wanted to do this as an all video, because you need to see how you make mistakes. the mistake I've just made there is I've assumed that that check riskiness is doing all the things I want it to do. Actually, it does, but I was looking at the wrong value here. Actually, the ones I'm concerned about are these ones down here. So the checking for are we doing the congruent before we do the delete is that value there and that one there. Here we've got a get saying get the value of it, check if that value is 1 or not. So actually those are the ones that I need to change to 0 or 1. So that one is that one, and that one is that one. Let's just pop back to the program and show you which ones I actually mistakenly was referring to then. Print tree here. Actually those other ones are these ones here, this super match here, this folder match here, and there's a couple more. But those are the checkbox names that I mistakenly started going to use, whereas in fact I needed to be referring to these ones down here, which I've now corrected. Goes to show you, you kind of need to not leap to conclusions, that you know what you're looking at. You do need to check it somewhat. And we can actually see now by the names that it's actually a bit more clear, because these are all T01 check var congruent something or other. There's the check congruent BF delete, B4 delete, whether we do it stringent or not, and whether we want to get the stringent failures reported. So according to that, and then we call the riskiness thing, which is all of this stuff up above. So does that do it all? We've got the, when we click on the combo box, we should now call this function. This function will go and turn on all three of those checkboxes, and then call the other function for checking whether we should display the label or not. That's actually feeling like it's all the things I need to change. Alright, now where are we in editing? So if we look in the editor here, you may notice up in the right hand side, foldertree.py is showing in red. That's because that has not been saved yet. In fact, it hasn't even been checked, really. The other files are all there, tabs are all here, and you'll notice, so click on the tabs here, which one shows in the left as being, and again you can see the foldertree.py is showing as red in the left, so it has not been even saved. It's all just sitting in the edit session at the moment. So there's a couple of things I can do here. This is more about how the IDE works. I can do a save and check that the code at least doesn't have obvious things wrong with it by clicking on here, which kind of called compile, doesn't really make sense in Python, but anyway, it actually ran through the code and said, yeah, your code looks all right. Who knows if it does the right thing, but it looks all right. It doesn't have obvious syntax errors in it, basically. Now we can also from here run the program, and that's actually going to be this button here to run or view the current file. This will actually run the main program because we're currently at the foldertree.py file, which is the one that runs the main program. So in fact we happen to be at the right one. Sometimes if I was editing some other feature, I might be editing one of these other files, and before I could run the program to test again, I'd have to come back to the foldertree one and run with that as the one with focus. Anyway, we'll now run it. Okay, it's running. Print tree, there we are here. Now the question is going to be, when we change this to immediate deletion, oh, it did turn them on, so that was good. However, I've realized as I've just done that, what we haven't written yet, because even if I change it, I just went and turned all those three off, the checkboxes. If I change it to dry run, it's going to turn them on. Actually, we only want it to turn on when we select immediate deletion. So this isn't quite right. I don't think it would matter if we selected dry run that we'd want it to turn them off. No, there's no particular, as a user I don't have a need for that, so that's, that's kind of not your concern, I guess, but to me that is something I don't particularly need to do. So in fact what we do need to add into the code, let's close the program, is we need something in here that basically goes if, and I'm sure there will be Python people who would hate me doing this, but I'm just going to add in if false. False will always never be true. If false, then do those things. Actually, if false, do the setting of the three things, not in the false check. We'll still do the check riskiness. So what we need here instead of if false is how do we check that it's that value, that particular value? So here we have another thing where we have to know how to use the interfacing. Certainly we can go working that out. We've got the name of our function here, go searching for that. That'll take me to that bind line. So this is the name of the combo box object here. So we're going to do something with that, certainly. So I'm going to put that in the clipboard, search again, went to the end, search again, went to the beginning of the file, came down, found this line. So it's going to be something about that. So test that object to see what value it has. Now, I do in the program have to go doing that kind of thing, which is that I already have to go and find the value of it. So if we go searching for this object name, so that's the name object, the variable, the name of the object variable that is the combo box at runtime. If we go searching for that, you should find places where we go getting the value of it. Well, there's one place there. There's a place where we go and get a show value of it. And we actually can see that we could get the value out of it by get selected key. This is the part here that's getting the selected key value. So certainly we can do that. So actually let's grab that as a bit of code. Let's jump to the front, the beginning at the top of the file, Control G to jump down. That's a place where we're getting, oh, okay, that's actually where we're getting the delete mode there. Alright, well actually that's kind of a neater bit there, so let's go and copy that bit of code and come down, ignoring a few bits here. We should find out if false. Here we go, here. So again, hash to make it a comment, so I'm not actually putting code in at the moment. So one thing we could do is get the value from the combo box. Alright, well actually we can make that a line there. So this will create a temporary variable here. My naming conventions, I'd go t underscore to tell me that's a temporary variable. It's just the name. So we get the value of that, and really it's going to be a matter of then going if that equals, well, yes, what do we do that equals there really? That's the question. We'll go back to putting that as a comment for the moment. So we need to work out how do we find what value that is. Now, here I'm going to have to basically go and pull in from my knowledge about how I write the program. We've got the value of it. Where is that value? Where is it stored? So here I'm just going to have to pull on the fact that I do actually know about this, and go to another module which actually is where all of these values get stored somewhere. And here I'm just digging into my memory for how things are done. I do actually have notations in this particular file telling me about this sort of stuff, so with a bit of luck we might bump into it. There are enumerations, delete mode, enum delete mode, there we go, how to actually delete things. That's what that combo box is about. So with that in there, going to jump down this file. Here we go. Here are the values here. It's a keep enum keep which, is that right? Oh no, I've jumped ahead too far. Let's enum delete mode. See here our values: dry run, delete now, which is the immediate, and bash. So actually this is where those get defined. And we can see here, here's how we refer to the dry run value. Here's how we refer to the delete now. There we go. So this is actually what I need here. Enum delete mode dot delete now is the immediate value. So that was me. Look, I had to kind of remember that that's kind of where things were, but I could just go and look that up in that sense. And now I know that the test I would do is that it's that. If the delete mode value that we got off the combo box is, that's the Python equality test, is enum delete mode dot delete now, then do those three things. So actually I can now uncomment that one, get rid of the if false. Oh, I need a colon at the end of that if line. That's Python syntax. And will that work? Actually, I think it won't, but it's interesting to let this run and we'll see that it does or doesn't. So quick check, no syntax errors there. If I had left off the colon, just as a good test of this, if I'd left off that colon there, if the syntax check would show an error. That's the kind of example of what that little pre-check is doing. So it found that, oh, you got an if and you didn't have a colon on the end of it. You can see down here, syntax error colon expected. That's kind of the useful thing that does. I'll put that back in, redo that. Alright, we're ready to do a test run. Alright, looks like it's fine. Now, something you haven't seen because the program's just been running is that when we are running it from the editor here, not only is the program window running, but there's also a terminal window here, which is where any errors will show up. So that might be significant in a second. Normally I would put that on my second screen so I can see it at the same time as I'm running the program. We'll just bring it back to the focus once we do something. So here's the printer tab where we're making this change. Go and click on immediate deletion. Alright, well the checkboxes didn't highlight. What's going on? Did we get an error? Yes, we did. Let's have a look at the error. So enum delete mode is not defined. Is the error really there? So what's going on there? Well, okay, luckily I do know what's going on there. So let's close the run of the program. It actually needs a reference to where that came from. That came from the appletry module, which is that file you can see over on the left. It's actually the first one in the list up there. So this is a Python thing about that enum delete mode, which is an enumeration type, is defined in the appletry module, and therefore I need to put a reference in there to it. Actually, I'll probably find, let's see, might be interesting to see if that's anywhere else here in the program. It is. It's already there. So you can see here's a place where the program is being used correctly, and it's got the appletry dot in front of it. So actually that's what we kind of need to do. And I just did search again for this exact thing, enum delete mode.delete now, and it jumped us to the second reference, which is actually the one we happen to be working on. So I'm just going to paste in the front the appletry dot. Just to let you understand a little bit, so where does that appletry dot come from? Actually, if we search for this, go to the top of the program and go search, that name in particular is in where Python gets told to import the appletry module, and it gets given an alias of slightly abbreviated version of itself. So that's what that's dereferencing. We'll just do a syntax check. That's fine. Let's try running the program. Go to prunit tree, immediate deletion. Turned all three boxes on. Magic. Now if I change it to dry run, didn't change them, or did it turn all three on again? Well, let's turn all three off again and try changing it to, there's actually a third value you can't see on there, bash script. Well, that didn't trigger it. Dry run, that didn't trigger it. Immediate deletion, that triggered it. There we go. That's the change I wanted to make. So this is now working, and in the way that the editor works there is that actually in order to run the program I saved it. It actually got saved when I clicked on this check, but if I hadn't done that it would get saved when I clicked on that. So in fact the code is now fine, it has the new change. The last thing I'm going to do now is update my holding of the code in Git, which is doing the managing of the code. So I could set up the editor to do that. I don't actually happen to work that way. I have a separate thing of calling the Git interface and the graphic interface for the Python 3 folder tree. It's the second bottom one in the list there. Bring that up. It's gone to the other screen, but we'll just bring it over here. You can see it immediately. It's detected the changes I made in the program today. So only one file, folder tree /folder tree.py got changed. It's showing me the changes. The green with the pluses on the left are the new lines of code. Yep, we kind of knew that. Here's a minus and a plus showing the line of code that got changed. We changed from T01 check riskiness to calling this new function del mode react, which is what we had written up here. So I'm now going to say, yep, we want to mark those changes. Let's bring that over here. Now I put a commit message to go with this, and well, actually I could just put Added that, but actually that's not a good way to read the change later. So I'm actually going to sort of say it slightly more in English. Add reaction function for the pruner tree, that's the part of the program, delete mode combo box to turn on stringent typo there, checking, get rid of that, correct that, there we go. That's fine. Do the commit. So that's now in my commit tree here on my computer, and so that it's there out on the web too, I'll do push, which will, I can choose where to push that to. I'm not going to change the setting here, it's just by default going to push to the main. Now this is where I have a copy of the code out on the web on GitLab, and fingers crossed this works. It's been a while since it's been done, so it might be 10 minutes. Yep, there we go, it's done that. And actually if we now open a web browser and go to where the code is, dev folder tree, got a shortcut to that already. Actually see the commit is already here. Added reaction function for the pruner tree delete mode combo box is there as a commit just now, and actually if we click on that we'll see out on the web that actual code change is here. Yep, there we go, slightly different view but showing us the code changes. So if anyone was pulling a program from my source code, they could now pull that and have that new version running, which actually in practice is me. What will happen is that I'll go to another computer of mine and I'll pull a copy off GitLab here, and that way I'll have the newest version of the program running on that other computer. That's how that works. So there we go. That was a run through of just making a simple change to the program, particularly to show you that you do have to go and refine things in your own programs. You don't magically know where everything is, that you have to step around and sort of decode your own code in a sense when you go to do this. So look, I hope that is a useful thing for you to sort of see and experience, and without having it all handed to you on a platter by an expert, because that's not me. I'm just an ordinary programmer, just writing tools to do things when I need them. And I can go sometimes, well, in this case I think we could probably see when the previous commit was. If we go here, code commits, I mean we can do this back on the computer as well. We'll see when the last commit was, so 2 minutes ago now. Previous update was just actually updating the documentation a month ago. Month between code, you forget what it is, or it might be years. I've certainly gone multiple years at times between doing any programming at all. I'm not a professional programmer. This is what being an ordinary programmer is like. Hope you found that useful. Bye for now.